You sound like a K-beauty Wonder Woman.
Brand called The Face Shop. Oh, I didn't know the Body Shop had a face version. We need more. Like, where can we buy this stuff? Couple of really key differences between Korean sunscreen and sunscreen in other countries. So I have good news and bad news.
Which one first? Hello, annyeong. This is Yuhi and
Lauren
from One Eye Beauty. The place to find all the Korean beauty info in one eye. Thank you so much. Wow. I always want to do this opening with someone else and can't believe that it was Lauren who did it with me for the first time. Well, hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, I'm glad. We're all super excited. Of course, Lauren is not from One Eye Beauty. For those of you who are seeing Lauren for the first time, may I tell you, everyone, who you are and where you're from?
Please.
Yeah. So on today's show, we have a very special guest, Lauren, a K-beauty expert and founder of Ceuracle and Style Story. She's been in K-beauty industry since 2011, runs 2 K-beauty businesses, works as a regulatory consultant, and is a guest presenter on a Korean radio station. And she also has her own K-beauty podcast where she shares tips, news, and insights from the K-beauty world. My goodness, you sound like a K-beauty Wonder Woman, Lauren.
I know, when you say it like that, I'm like, oh, I actually sound impressive.
We have got a legend in K-beauty with us today. So, well, I first discovered you through your podcast as well and instantly became a huge fan. So how many years have you been running it now and how many listeners and downloads do you have?
So the podcast actually went live for the first time in the middle of the pandemic. So I think it was maybe March 2020. And we are now downloaded in over 142 countries. We've had hundreds and thousands of downloads. So yeah, I'm always really surprised when I actually check the stats at like who's listening, where people are tuning in from. It's just crazy. I think it's a testament to how globally popular Korean beauty is that we literally have people tuning in from all corners of the world.
Definitely. I can definitely relate to that. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah. And I also have a K-beauty podcast, One Eye Beauty podcast, where I share my weekly YouTube content. But I started since March this year, so I have about 27 episodes now. So as a baby podcaster, I find your show really inspiring. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about Lauren, I'll leave links to her podcast, her Korean skincare brand Ceuracle, and the Instagram in the description below. So let's take it back to the start of the K-beauty journey, yeah? Because you've been in the industry since 2011 when Korean beauty wasn't as widely known in the West. And for those who may not know you, like tell us how your K-beauty journey began. Like what inspired you to dive into it?
So it was very much a chance discovery. Like you mentioned, back in those days, K-beauty was not a thing. It certainly wasn't a thing very far outside of Korea. So I went to Korea for the first time in 2011. I did a student exchange at Yonsei University in Seoul. And while I was there, as usually happens when you go overseas for like a chunk of time, you bring a whole bunch of stuff over with you that you think you're going to use while you're there, and then you inevitably run out of it and you need to go and pick up some of the local stuff, you know, to sort of get you through to the end of your journey. And that's what happened to me. All of the makeup, the skincare and everything that I had brought over with me, you know, I used it all up, and then I was kind of like, all right, well, what am I going to use now? And started sort of looking around, walking down the streets of Seoul, and it struck me that there were all of these stores and brands and products and things that I had never seen before. And I was just like, I remember one of the first ones that really like light bulb switch in my head that I was like, oh, this is not what I think it is, was a brand called The Face Shop. And I was like, oh, I didn't know the Body Shop had a face version. You know, just thinking that, of course, it must be Western because everything was in English and it all looked like it could be something from, you know, a store overseas. But it wasn't until I sort of started actually looking at the stuff and I was like, I've never seen any of this stuff before. I've never seen any of these brands before. I've never seen any of these products. Like, what is this stuff? And one of the first places I remember actually purchasing something from was a store called Skin Food. And yeah, I'm sure you know their stuff. And back then they had this really kind of like elaborate storefront, and everything was done up as though it was almost like a little farm concept. They had all of the vegetables and plants and things like that. And then they had the products that had that in it, sort of in front of it. And I remember sort of trying the testers on and things like that. And I was like, all right, this is really cool. I've never seen anything like this. And of course, when you shop in Korea, the girls at the counter, or at least back in the day, less so these days, but back in those days, they used to load you up with like samples of all of these different products. So you would go in and buy one thing and come out with like 10 different samples. And I managed to kind of work my way through the store just, off the back of samples and things like that, and branched out, further into other stores. And I just couldn't get over the products, how different they were from anything that I had tried. The ingredients they were using, the formulations, the packaging, it was just like, it was literally like walking into another world. It was like walking into Wonderland. So that was kind of my intro into K-beauty, and then it really all just sort of unfolded from there.
Right. Okay. So it was a good start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine you walking around going, like, discovering all these little.
It literally was like I'd fallen down the hole into Wonderland, and I was just like, I don't know where we are, but this is awesome. This is so good. And so, I loved the products so much that I knew that people back home would want to try them as well. So I pretty much loaded up my suitcase at the end of my exchange with as many products as I could find, all the stuff that I liked, took it back to Australia and gave it to everyone. It was Christmas, the end of semester. So I kind of bought them as Christmas gifts and just sort of gave them to people. And, a couple of months later, after they'd used up what I'd given them, people were coming back to me and they were like, we need more. Like, where can we buy this stuff? We want more. And I was like, well, geez, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. And that really was what kickstarted my entire journey with Style Story, my first brand. And then it's led me all the way down to what are we in 2024 now? A whole career out of K-beauty.
Great. So Style Story, did that start off as a blog or what? It's quite interested to know. Yeah.
Good question. So Style Story actually started off as a market stall, would you believe, at the markets in Brisbane, which is my hometown. And we didn't just do Korean beauty. We were doing Korean accessories, Korean fashion, like clothing and shoes and everything. Like, it was, and this is how we got the name Style Story. It was supposed to be like all the things you needed to create your own style story. So, from head to toe. And, I had already been selling not even selling Korean beauty products, supplying Korean beauty products really to friends and family. They would give me the money. I didn't take any profit or anything like that. I would just go out and find what they wanted, source it all, bring it in for them. And, people were telling everyone they knew, you need to go see Lauren. She's got all this cool stuff. She can get all these things, for us from Korea. You just need to let her know what your skin concern is or what you need, and she'll go and find you all this cool stuff. So the amount of people that have been kind of coming to me, asking me for help with this kind of stuff kept growing. And it got to the point where I literally had enough to set up like this stall. So I was like, okay, cool. This is back in the day before like online shopping was really a big thing. So I was like, all right, well, I used to host parties at my house and like invite people over to like try on all the stuff and try out all the products. And then we were like, well, we could do a stall at the markets, and that's a good way to get in front of a few more people, see if some more people might like this stuff. So I had like a whole tent and everything that you see like at the markets, like
Outdoor.
a table with the cosmetics on it, the dresses and everything hung up in the back. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And it wasn't for a little bit more time that someone was like, why don't you go online? And of course, going online in those days wasn't as easy as it is now. So I actually had to go out and find like a designer to design the website. We then had to find like someone that knew how to build a website to actually build it. So it took a long time. We had to photograph everything. It was a whole thing. Like it took a long time, but that was 10 years ago now that we launched online for the first time.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I never knew it started off as a market store. Yeah,
Yeah.
who would have thought? And look at where you are now. Amazing. So now you establish your own brand, Jellico. Jellico is a very unique brand in the K-beauty space as it was created by an Aussie K-beauty expert and consultant. So what inspired you to start your own brand and what gap did you feel it filled in the market?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Obviously, after running my store online and having the experience that I did offline, I had gathered a whole lot of data about all of the different things that people were really, the issues that they were looking to solve with their skin concerns, the things that they looked for in a product, what they wanted the texture to be, the ingredients to be, the packaging, all of that kind of thing. Like we had 7 years of data, something like that, by the time we actually set up the brand. And so what I wanted to do is really just give people exactly what they wanted, but also recapture some of the fun that I felt had kind of gone out of the K-beauty market by that stage. In 2020, when we launched the brand, that was when we were really in the midst of this whole clean beauty phenomenon in Korean beauty. And it felt like a lot of the products that were being released were very play by numbers. It was like had to be plant-based, had to be vegan, had to be clean, or making a lot of claims about clean beauty and all of these kind of things. And I was seeing a lot of just the same release again and again. The other issue that we were really trying to solve for is the difference between the speed of the market in Korea versus the speed of the market overseas. And the consistent feedback that we had from a lot of our customers and what we were finding problematic ourselves as distributors was just that the speed at which products were being released and then the constant discontinuations, by the time things filtered overseas, it already took, maybe 6 months to a year. And a lot of Korean beauty brands operate on like a 2-year cycle. So by the time they had released the product and we had kind of gone to the trouble to release it in Australia, market it and do all of that, the trend had already moved on in Korea and they were on to the next thing. So they were discontinuing those things and, working on the next things. And it meant that a lot of our customers were just getting really confused and a bit frustrated because they were like, that was my favorite product and now it's different. It's been reformulated, discontinued, or something's happened to it. I don't know, like, where do I start now? So that was the other thing that we were kind of trying to solve for as well, is just simplifying it, coming up with, a collection that was intuitive and a bit easier to use and not kind of cycling through things as quickly as a lot of the well-established brands. And they do that for a good reason. They do that because that's what the market demands in Korea. It's always about newness and innovation and something different. But that's not how a lot of Western consumers in particular like to shop. They kind of prefer to have a couple of staple go-to products that they can always fall back on, like a tried and tested holy grail. And so that was something that we were, I guess, trying to really solve for that problem as well for our customers.
Amazing. I can definitely relate to that. In Korea, like every time I visit, like in a couple of years, it's like everything's changed.
It's like that with makeup in particular, like your favorite foundation or BB cushion or anything like that, like from 2 years ago, that doesn't even exist anymore, which is fine if you're happy to always be trying new things. But if you found the one product that really works for you and then it disappears, it's heartbreaking.
Exactly. Yeah. So wow, yeah, that's really interesting. We're gonna explore Jellico a bit more later on. Now moving to skincare ingredients and routines. Like at One Eye Beauty, one of my primary focuses when reviewing Korean skincare products is ingredients, and my audience is wide range of age groups. So what are the top skincare ingredients would you recommend for different age groups, like teens, 20s, 30s, and over 40s? And can you tell us a couple of products with these ingredients that you can recommend to add to our routine?
Sure. So I think when we're talking ingredients, I always like to link it back to the problems that we're trying to solve for, because some ingredients are a little bit better at, solving some issues than others. So when we're in our teens, our skin is usually characterized by oiliness, and it can often be acne prone as well. So getting acne under control and controlling excess oil, clogged pores, all of those kind of things is usually what we're trying to solve for in teen skincare. So K-Beauty has so many different ingredients and products that are really perfect for teenage skin. Tea tree extract, tea tree leaf extract is one of my personal favorites for whenever skin is kind of really breaking out. Obviously, products like pimple patches are perfect for teens because, you can just whack them on. And, as long as we're not dealing with, severe cystic acne or, something with a lot of inflammation and pus, then pimple patches are really, really great for dealing with that kind of thing. Salicylic acid is another popular ingredient that's in a lot of face washes that are good for teens. So that would be, I would say, for teenage skincare. The other thing that I personally love recommending is clay masks and products that have clay in them just to absorb the excess oil. And Korean Beauty has so many beautiful options for clay masks as well for teenage skin. And then I guess once you're moving into your 20s, I think that's a really good time to set up your basic skincare routine, because hopefully a lot of the oiliness and the skin troubles and issues that you are having in your teens are hopefully starting to settle down a little bit more. And a lot of people will find that this is the time when their skin maybe changes a little bit, maybe becomes a little bit more combination. So they might still have their oily T-zone, but, a little bit drier around the cheeks. So I always think this is a great time to introduce double cleansing if people aren't already doing that. And that is where you cleanse once with like either a cleansing oil or a cleansing balm to get all of your makeup and sunscreen off, and then follow up again with a foaming wash or something like that. So that's usually what I recommend doing in your 20s. Obviously, sunscreen should be a staple for everyone at every age. But if you're not already using it, then I would say your 20s definitely prioritize wearing sunscreen every day as well.
It's a must.
The 30s and 40s, which is kind of where I'm in right now, I think that is when the first signs of aging start to show up. So that's when a lot of people do start to look at adding in a few more anti-aging style products and ingredients. Retinol is a good thing to add in at that stage. It's not historically been as popular in Korean beauty, but it is getting more and more popular, particularly with the products that have been launched for Western and overseas markets. They know that we love our retinol and that we can't get our hands on a lot of the procedures and in-clinic things that they can in Korea. So that's why retinol, I think, is probably even more important for people living outside Korea. For those of you who don't know, in Korea, it is very easy, cheap, and accessible to get dermatological care, or at least to visit a skin clinic and have kind of in-clinic procedures and treatments and things like that done. So the types of skincare that people focus on in Korea is slightly different from the types of things that people will focus on if they're not in Korea, because we need to do a little bit more heavy lifting at home, I guess you could say, because we don't have the same access to all of those kind of in-clinic procedures and treatments. So I guess hydration also being a big focus for skin in its 30s and 40s, because we start to dry out a little bit more. Anything that's really nourishing, hydrating, I'm thinking things like Propolis, which is one of my favorites, things with hyaluronic acid in them, things with panthenol, that's another one of my personal favorites. A lot of people in this age group like the snail mucin products because they tend to be really nice and hydrating. Things like glutathione, which are your antioxidants, as well as your retinol, which is another antioxidant that's a really great product. 50s and beyond, I think is when we start getting even more heavy duty, because the skin tends to become a little bit thinner, drier, it loses elasticity. We've often lost a lot of the fat and things that are holding up the skin on our face. So you start seeing things like jowls and sagginess and all of those kind of things. So really just pumping the skin full of hydration, anything that you can do. Peptides are a really great one, a really great anti-aging ingredient. Collagen is another one that I think gets a little bit of a bad name because people know that collagen can't be absorbed by the skin. They think that collagen in skincare is useless, and that's not entirely true. It's actually a great ingredient for hydrating the skin. It's just that I think some of the marketing about how collagen products work in skincare probably needs to be fixed a little bit. It's not going to replenish the lost collagen that you don't have in your skin anymore, but it still can be a really, really great ingredient for conditioning and keeping the skin nice and firm and elastic looking. So I think that would be some of my favorites.
Okay, because collagen boosts hydration. That's a really good point you made.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people focus on the fact that, oh, yeah, but it's not going to replenish your skin's natural collagen. And that's true, but it still has a function in a skincare formulation. It's not an entirely useless ingredient, I guess, is more the point. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I've received many questions around that as well, saying, "Oh, it's useless. It doesn't even penetrate the skin. Why bother?" But
Yeah.
that was a really good, answer. Yeah, so it's made me feel better as well because I use collagen skincare products. Yeah.
There's some beautiful products that have collagen in them. So I think it's just important that we get the messaging right about why we're using the product. It's not that we're, going to be replenishing our own collagen, but that hydration, which is so important for skin that is becoming drier. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And I have extremely dry skin, and I'm in like over 40s, fall into mature as well. So yeah, I love all those ingredients you mentioned, like panthenol, collagen.
Yeah.
Yes. We'd also love to know what are the staple skincare ingredients you personally can't live without. I think you named a few already, but in your routine.
I think the panthenol I definitely already mentioned. Another one that I absolutely love because I am so dry is birch sap. So that's just another ingredient that's so good for really hydrating the skin. Personal favorite is Beta Glucan of mine. That's another one that can be derived from lots of different sources. One of the ones is from the cell wall of mushrooms. So it's got lots of different ways they can actually extract it. But that's also a really good one for skin that is sensitive, red, things like that. Sea buckthorn is one of my absolute favorites for brightening. And Korean beauty uses it in a lot of different ways. I've used it in cleansers, I've used it in moisturizers, and it's very, very rich in vitamin and minerals. So that one is one of my favorites. And a new one that I'm really loving is ectoin as well. Quite a few Korean beauty companies are formulating with ectoin, Jellicoe as well at the moment. And this is one of those ingredients that's really great for a damaged skin barrier. So that one's definitely one to keep a lookout for because I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that in 2025 as well.
Amazing. Can you name a few products, including your own Jellicoe products, with these ingredients you just mentioned?
Okay, so ectoin, I'm pretty sure Dr. Jart just re-released their ceramide line. Ceramides are another staple, another great ingredient, particularly for dry, sensitive skin. So that's a really good line to look into. Our Cherry Blossom Sleeping Mask has just been upgraded to include ectoin for the 2024 release. In terms of Beta Glucan, we've got that in our Bubble Tea Steam Cream, our moisturizer. I know iUNIK also has a Beta Glucan line as well, a serum and a moisturizer. Birch sap is the key ingredient in our Dewy Glaze toner. COSRX also has a moisturizer with birch sap in it as well that's very popular. Sea buckthorn, one of my favorite products that has sea buckthorn in it is TOSOWOONG's. What's that product called? it's called like brightening cream or something. I'll have to send it to you. It's in a tube, and it's a really bright, almost orange color, which is the color of the sea buckthorn extract that's in it. And that is a brilliant product for like brightening the skin. It's really hydrating as well. But yeah, sea buckthorn, you'll notice, is in quite a few products. I think iUNIK's vitamin serum has sea buckthorn as the key ingredient in that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice more and more products, with that ingredient. Yeah, there's something one
Yeah.
ingredient I'm looking, into it, like thinking, I need to
Definitely look into it. I absolutely love it. I think it's so underrated.
have. Fantastic. So on Sunday evening or a night before an important occasion, what is your favorite mask product to relax and pamper your skin to get that glow the next day?
So I've got a couple, and it kind of depends on what mood I'm in. One of my favorites, if I'm just like short on time, but I just want to, do something that's really going to make me feel amazing, is ILLIYOON. Is a very popular brand in Korea. It doesn't get any real airtime overseas. They have a line called First Lab that runs probiotic masks. One of my colleagues that I work with in Korea, her mum is the one that actually put me onto this. So she is in her 60s, and a lot of the Korean ajumas, which is like, people that are your mum's age, people that are mums, that's what we call them. They absolutely love this, and they were the ones that put me onto it. They found it on Home Shopping. It's very, very, very popular. It's a sheet mask that's basically bathed in probiotics. It's incredible, and it's really, really great for sensitive skin as well, which I have. So that one I can definitely recommend. I've always got some. Obviously, our cherry blossom sleeping mask is another thing that I love to use if I really want my skin to look glowy and nourished the next day. That's a sleeping mask, so not like a wash off. You sleep in it overnight. They're incredible, particularly in winter. Anytime my skin looks dull, dehydrated, I love doing that. And they're a little bit better for the environment than the single-use products. That's the other thing. Sheet masks, I think, are not as popular as they once were, and I think that's one of the reasons. I think people are a little bit more clued into the environmental aspect. If I really have a lot of time, I also love doing a modeling mask, which is the ones that they use in the Korean esthetician clinics. And it's a paste, and you make it up and you put it over your skin. They do require a little bit more time. They are a little bit more fiddly to get off, and you tend to end up with pieces in your hair and whatnot, but they are a lot of fun to use and very, very nourishing. It's like a cocoon for your face. So yeah, that would be my 3 go-to masks if I have a little bit more time.
Fantastic, yeah. And now, in most parts of the world, like the cold weather is just around the corner. Yeah, it is getting a bit chill. So let's chat about autumn and winter K-beauty skincare routine. So what are the best skincare ingredients and products you'd recommend for different skin types during the season? What will be the main ingredients?
When we move into the colder months of the year, there's actually this phenomenon in Korea that gets a lot of airtime, particularly around cosmetics, and that is the change of seasons. So usually the skin will be at its worst when the seasons are changing from one to the other, and that's for a couple of reasons. The variance in the daily air temperatures usually tends to be a lot bigger. So you might have like 10 to 15 degrees difference in one day, and that just wreaks havoc on your skin. It will start drying out, becoming more sensitive, all of those kind of things. So that is like a phenomenon that every time it's the change of seasons, I'll see a lot about it in the Korean news. They'll be like, what are the products that are best for combating this? So I think a lot of the ingredients that we've already covered can be really great. Ceramides, panthenol, Centella asiatica for skin that is really just, out of sorts. Sika, it's sometimes called, also tiger's grass. They're a lot of the ones that you will see. Hyaluronic acid. Now that's not unique to K-beauty, but it gets a lot of love in Korea as well, and for good reason. Yeah, exactly. Ectoin, I think, is another really good one to, care for for the skin's barrier. So just hydration, I think, is the number one recommendation that I have. And if you speak to any Korean dermatologists, that's what they'll tell you. They'll be like, hydration, hydration, hydration. Lots of layering of different things, usually in a richer, thicker cream as well, to kind of set everything in and make sure that the moisture in your skin doesn't evaporate overnight. So I think that's what I normally focus on as well.
So that would lead on to, I was going to ask, as one of my subscribers wanted to find out, like she gets flaky skin all the time during this time of the year, like winter, especially around the T-zone, she says, despite using hydrating creams, toners like panthenol and hyaluronic acid. She just gets flaky skin. So any suggestions for dealing with like stubborn dryness like this?
Yeah, I think a stubborn dryness and particularly flakes, there can be a couple of different causes for that kind of thing. Now, one thing that can sometimes be overlooked is like a poor product interaction. So something that maybe actually just doesn't really agree with your skin that's making it more dry. The other thing can be something like dermatitis as well. And that can cause, persistent dryness and flakiness. If it's just a result of the weather and you just can't seem to get it to budge, in that case, I would suggest that it's probably just not enough. It's not heavy enough. You might need to introduce something like an oil. Dry skin is caused by a lack of oil, not a lack of water. So dehydrated skin lacks water, dry skin lacks oil. And a lot of people tend to, avoid oils because, you hear all of this stuff about, oils can clog the skin and make you break out and all of that kind of thing. If you do really have this kind of persistent dryness that just won't go away and you are already using a lot of these products in your routine, I would definitely look into adding an oil. The other thing I notice is oftentimes when I see people recommending things online and they recommend really hydrating products, I'm like, I would not describe that as really, really hydrating. So I think there are some products that people think are very hydrating and that they're just not really going to cut it for very, very dry skin. One product I'm thinking of that I see recommended again and again is the ILLIYOON Ado Concentrate Cream. And I have nothing against that product. I think it's fine. It is not going to cut it for people that have truly dry skin. So I know if I were to put that on, that would just be one layer. I would need to go in with something a lot more thicker and a lot more hydrating than that. So it could just be that the products you think are really hydrating maybe are not the best ones out there, or you need more. If it could be something like a negative product interaction or dermatitis, then I think the only solution is to go back to basics. You kind of need to just cut everything out and start again, patch testing, introducing one new product at a time, like maybe once every 2 weeks, and just make a record and see whether you can identify the culprit, because that can happen as well, particularly with Korean beauty. That's something that I've noticed over the years is, a lot of people will go out, they get really excited and they want to buy a whole lot of different products and use all of the products. And sometimes when we do that, it's just too much for the skin. So I think if anyone's listening and they're like, maybe that could be me, that might be a cause. I know in the past I've spoken to people that have said, no, that this product is really bad and didn't agree with me or whatnot. But once they've gone back to basics and started slowly reintroducing products one by one, they've realized it really wasn't that particular product at all. It was just the combination of so many different things all at once, and the skin just had no chance to adjust. So that can be a little bit of a problem as well for Korean beauty products, just because of how many new things people tend to try all at once.
So your suggestion would be reducing down the steps?
I think so. If your listener thinks there's a chance that this could be a negative product interaction and not just a lack of hydration, not just she needs to add in an oil or something a bit heavier. If she thinks that could be the cause, then yeah, you really need to just take it back to basics. Say one cleanser and a moisturizer, nothing else, for a week or so, and see what happens, see how you go. If you start noticing less of that, then, you can suspect that potentially it was one of the other products that you were using that maybe just didn't agree with your skin.
Fab. Okay. So cut down your steps a bit, reduce the steps in your routine, and then maybe add a face oil.
Yeah, you could add a face oil, or you could even just add back in what you were using with, patch test all of it first. So, patch test on your neck and check for a negative reaction the next day. If there's nothing there, you might want to put it on one side of your face. This is what I have to do because I've got rosacea. Put it on one side of your face the next night, see what happens. The other thing is, for a lot of product incompatibilities, it will take a few days to show up on your skin. So you might not realize that the product that you put on Sunday starts showing up on Wednesday or Thursday, that you've had a negative reaction to it. So you really do kind of want to give it that period of testing in isolation from anything else, just to rule out whatever else it might be.
Fantastic. Yeah. You've mentioned briefly about that you suffer from rosacea just now. I actually do this back from your podcast episode. You share a lot about it. So what products or ingredients would you recommend for those struggling with the same condition during the colder month?
I have to be extremely careful what I use on my skin, and I can't actually test out and try out as many new products as I used to because of my rosacea. It's all very finely balanced. So if I'm going to be introducing something new, I need to be really, really careful. So, I mean, look, I can run you through some of the products that I actually use that are compatible with my particular skin, but I think for rosacea, a couple of things that I would say is to work out, if you can possibly, what your triggers are, because everyone's trigger is kind of different. So for example, I've worked out that if I have like a glass of wine, my rosacea flares really badly. I get pimples all over my cheeks. So that for me is a known trigger. For some people, it will be, the extreme heat or the extreme cold. Particular ingredients can trigger people's rosacea as well. So I think the first step is to try and work out what's causing it and then do less of that. The other thing is, if you are having a flare up, to really concentrate on the ingredients in your products as well. So when I'm having a flare up, I tend to avoid anything that has fragrance in it, particularly skincare. I've noticed less so makeup, but also skincare. I need to be really concerned about fragrance and essential oils, but it's different for everyone. And if my skin barrier is healthy and strong and I haven't had a flare up, I can use more things than I can when I'm having a flare up. So there's a little bit of a difference. Some products that I absolutely love, I really love Zeroid. It's a Korean brand that is stocked in a lot of doctors' clinics and dermatologists, and they have a line called Zeroid MD. Now, MD in Korean beauty stands for medical device. So that's why you'll see it in a lot of doctors' offices. But if you get diagnosed with something like rosacea in Korea, you can actually buy these products and get some money back with your health insurance, because it's an MD line of products. So I really like them. Another line I really love is a brand called Corthay, and they are Korean made but used a lot in estheticians, clinics and salons and things like that. So that brand works really, really well for my skin. There's another brand that used to be stocked in Sephora Korea, but of course Sephora has now exited Korea, so it doesn't exist anymore. But the brand still is around. It's called ILLIYOON, and that's a Korean brand. They have some beautiful products. Their Noir face oil is one of my personal favorites, and I love that going into the winter months. That's really, really a great product for my skin personally. And then, of course, our Jellicoe products, our philosophy or the purpose behind a lot of our products is hydration as well. So I find using our products and layering them, particularly our 2 new serums that we just launched, are perfect for that. They were really developed for people doing the skin cycling in their routine. So alternating between retinol and then really, really hydrating, sort of intense barrier care products on another night of their routine. So I like layering those as well.
Okay, which 2 serums are these?
The names of them are our Overnight Dream Serum is our retinol serum. So it's got retinol and collagen, and then we have just absolutely packed it full of really hydrating ingredients to counteract the drying effects of the retinol. And then our second serum is our White Truffle Soufflé serum, and that's our barrier repair serum. That's basically supposed to be like a cocoon to just nourish and lock everything in. It's quite rich, so you really only need like a pump. I use a pump for my face and neck. It's a really sort of thick product. But yeah, that's what I like to do, is basically just layer everything up. Another product that's not K-beauty that I like if my skin is really not doing well is the Avène Cicatrate cream. That's another one as well. It's not the most hydrating product, so you do still need to hydrate, but it as a layer on top to kind of seal everything in, it works really well for that. I would also suggest looking into swapping over to a mineral sunscreen as well, rather than a chemical sunscreen. That can help for a lot of people with rosacea. And funnily enough, Korean beauty at the moment is really focused on the chemical sunscreens and not so much on the mineral ones. So a lot of the ones that I find that work better are actually Western products, just because they do have more mineral options. That was a hack I actually picked up from dermatologists in Korea who made the suggestion to me, and I noticed a huge difference in my skin when I swapped over as well. Any of the lines that focus a lot on hydration should work well for skin that has rosacea, because it's really important to hydrate, keep it just nice and hydrated, and not play around so much with, active ingredients, high strength things. Just really focus on hydration.
Sounds like hydration is key to everything.
For me, it is. The answer is just always hydration.
Exactly. You briefly touched on about the mineral sunscreens. I've got a question on sunscreen and SPF, so we can maybe jump onto that, yeah?
Yes, let's do it.
In one of your recent podcast episodes, I found this really fascinating because you made an interesting point about sunscreen ratings varying across countries. Can you explain how SPF 50 in Korea differs from SPF 50 overseas, and why this is important for consumers to understand?
This is a big one, and I think that there are a couple of really key differences between Korean sunscreen and sunscreen in other countries. So, for example, one way of recording and measuring sunscreens that I'm really familiar with is obviously how we do things in Australia. And in Australia, in order to qualify for an SPF of 50 in a product, it actually needs to test above an SPF of 60. So it's actually not just 50. And then, in some countries like Singapore, they actually let the ratings go all the way up to 100, which you might think means that they're stronger than they are, but it's different in every single country. The other thing is water resistance. In a country like Australia, so in order to get a broad spectrum classification as a sunscreen, if you're wearing the sunscreen and you go into the water and you come out of the water, the SPF actually needs to stay the same. So whereas in Korea, it's actually allowed to drop by about 20%. So it's different in all different countries. The other thing is, just off the top of my head, how it can differ from country to country would be in who the products are tested on. So obviously if it's a Korean sunscreen and they're doing tests using real humans, Koreans tend to have darker skin than a lot of, say, Australians or white people. So you might have heard of something called the Fitzpatrick scale, which actually sort of ranks how dark people's skin is, which sounds awful, but there is a difference between skin that is really rich in melanin and skin that doesn't have a lot of melanin in it. So in Korea, people will be predominantly about a 3 on the Fitzpatrick scale. And, in Australia, a lot of us will be a 1 to 2. And why that matters, or how that can come into play sometimes, is when they are measuring SPF, it's a measure of how long it takes skin to actually burn. They compare it on skin without sunscreen versus skin with sunscreen. Obviously, the lighter your skin is, I can tell you as a very white person, your skin tends to burn a bit quicker. So that can be another reason why ratings may differ from one country to another, is because the pool of people that they have selected to test the product on, if they have skin that's just that slight bit darker, it's going to take them just a little bit longer to burn, which means when they're giving the ratings for the products, it can come out slightly different in different countries. But I think the really big difference that a lot of people maybe don't realize when it comes to, say, Korean sunscreens versus sunscreens in other countries is actually the way Koreans use sunscreen. So in Australia, it's drummed into us from a really, really young age. Slip, slop, slap, which means, stay protected. We're really using sunscreen as that first barrier against us and skin cancer. That's the thing keeping us safe and protecting us from the sun. sun. And that's just not how Koreans have been raised and how Koreans act when they get in the sun. If you've ever been to Korea, you may have noticed that a lot of people walking around outside will have a parasol, a UV parasol up. You might think, oh my God, aren't they hot? Why are they wearing a jacket? It's a UV jacket in summer to actually create that physical barrier between them and the sun. At crossings, zebra crossings in Korea and, light crossings, there'll often be big umbrellas that the government puts up so that everyone can stand underneath it so that you don't have to stand there getting the sun on you. A lot of people will wear driving gloves when they're driving around in their car so that the sun is not touching their arms and their hands. So there's just a very different approach then. Koreans, when they're using sunscreen, are not using it in the same way that a lot of Australians or Americans or Canadians would be, which is I'm going out for a jog or a run, I'm maybe going into the beach, I'm going for a swim or something like that. So they don't generally tend to look for waterproofing in the same way that we do. And their needs are just very different. I've heard people describe Asian sunscreens as commuter sunscreens, as in it's a good product to use when you're getting from A to B. And I think that's a really, really good phrase for it. Is I think a lot of sunscreens, the way they're made and what they're designed for is just a little bit different from the way sunscreen is made and designed overseas. It's not to say that one is better or worse than the other, but there are differences. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that.
But there are waterproof sunscreens in Korea as well, in Korean sunscreens markets.
There are.
So if you say you applied on a Korean waterproof sunscreen, you go into the water, come out, can we think that it may drop down to like SPF 30? Because you said that in Korean testing, that may drop down, whereas in Australian testing, it goes way beyond and it drops less?
Yeah, it's not allowed to drop, I guess. So yeah, you would expect then that there are going to be differences between a waterproof Korean sunscreen and a waterproof Australian sunscreen. The thing is, with the waterproof Korean ones, they don't feel like the ones that everyone's raving about on TikTok or whatnot. They feel a lot more like a real sunscreen. And that's, I guess, the other difference. One of the reasons a lot of people like Korean sunscreens is because it feels like you're not wearing any. When you're trying the waterproofing ones, you'll notice the difference.
Gotcha. Basically, if you're expecting that lightweight, dewiness, you wouldn't get that from Korean.
No, because there are the ingredients that they need to use to actually keep it waterproof are that bit thicker and heavier to actually keep the protection where it needs to be. So that's the reason you'll notice that as well. That's not to diss Korean sunscreens or anything like that. I use Korean sunscreens, and I think sometimes when people hear me talk about that, they're like, oh, she thinks she's better than Korean sunscreens. That's not what it's about at all. It's more for me. I mean, just to look at me, you can tell I'm extremely pale, very, very light. Most of my family members have had skin cancer cut out of their faces or, on their bodies at some point just from spending that time in the Australian sun. So as a person that's very light-skinned with strong history of family cancer, I just choose when I'm in Australia to use something a little bit different just based on my personal preference and I guess what I know about sunscreen regulation as well.
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, I didn't expect we'll go on this long about sunscreen. One last question about sunscreen, though. This is something myself and my subscribers really wants to find out. There are some Korean sunscreens that claim that our sunscreens last longer than 2 hours. We've passed 10-hour protection test. How do you feel about that? Is this reliable?
Whether or not it's reliable, I feel like it's a dangerous it can be potentially a dangerous message, because what we really want to be telling people about sun protection is not that, hey, put this on once and forget about it, you never need to think about sunscreen again. It is that reapplication piece that's also really, really important. So regardless of whether or not they have passed that kind of level of testing, like if they're saying that in their ads, then I would hope that that's true. But, I think from a sun safety perspective, we probably should just be encouraging people to reapply their sunscreen rather than saying, forget about it for the next 10 hours. I think it's all about the mindset then that people have. going along with that product. If they're thinking, I don't need to reapply this at all, I'm not going to be burnt for 10 hours, that's a very different mindset than someone that's going, oh, look, I'll just top up just in case. And when it comes to things like risking skin cancer or even just pigmentation, melasma, like any of the kind of things, the sun damage that you can get, why would you want to risk that? Stick to the tried and true methods, make sure you're putting enough on, make sure you're reapplying it, and make sure that sunscreen is not the only thing that you're relying on. Make sure you have some kind of a barrier, whether that's a parasol or driving gloves or whatever you want to do, wear a hat or whatever.
Right, moving on to the skincare myths and ingredient safety, I would love to find out this topic as well. Like, are skincare marketing claims like dermatologist tested or non-comedogenic tested, clinically tested in multiple labs and hypoallergenic, and all these labels, are they truly reliable, and how should consumers interpret these?
I get why people do it, and I don't think any of them are a lie either. Like, if you're talking about dermatologist tested, like, okay, yeah, maybe it was tested by a dermatologist, but what does that mean for you and your skin? Because I can guarantee you that some products that have been dermatologically tested will not work on my skin because I have a very specific skin issue. So I think, non-comedogenic tested, that's a big one a lot of people like to throw around, which basically means it's not going to clog your pores. And the truth is, if it was only that simple, no one would ever get clogged pores again, but it's not. So I think some of those kind of claims, they just make things sound a lot more simpler than they really are. Hypoallergenic, again, like, what are you allergic to? It depends what you're allergic to, whether the product being hypoallergenic is going to work for you and your skin. So I think it's trying to draw simple conclusions where conclusions are not always as simply drawn, because everyone's skin is different. And, a lot of things can set different people off at different times as well. Some people, they break out more around their time of the month. Some people are more sensitive in the change of seasons, like we spoke about. So I think they're not necessarily all bad, but I just think they're trying to simplify something that's not really that simple in reality.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's really case by case, right?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
You shouldn't be fully sold by those claims. Yeah.
No. Particularly if you do have a known skin condition or something like psoriasis or rosacea or whatnot. Like, if only it were that simple, but it rarely is. So I think it's really more about learning what works for you, what doesn't work for you, if there are ingredients or things like that that you need to avoid. It's not usually that simple.
How about like ingredient related labels like alcohol free, silicone free, sulfate free, and paraben free? Are these ingredients like truly harmful to our skin, or is the reality more nuanced?
Of course, I think the reality is a lot more nuanced. A lot of people, like scientists and things like that work in the skincare industry, will tell you the dose makes the poison, right? So anything can be harmful if it's, at a particular dose or level in a product. Claims like, alcohol free. Are there some skin types that probably don't respond as well to ingredients that have alcohol in it? Yes, there are, but are there also good alcohols? Yes, there are. So I think alcohol in general can get a bad rap, but there's a difference between your volatile alcohols, or simple alcohols, as sometimes people refer to them, versus your fatty alcohols, which actually work for a lot of skin types and can be really, really good for the skin. And I can tell you why it happens. Now, as someone that's running a skincare brand, when you're trying to get retailed in particular retailers, particularly in the US, where they are very tuned into all of this kind of stuff, a lot of the time the retailers want these kind of call outs, in order to even take on the product, because they'll have, like, say, a clean beauty category or something like this that they're trying to build out. I know some of the retailers that we have, been in talks with, they have entire lists of ingredients that somebody at the company has decided, no, that's not allowed to be in any of the products. Is it overkill? And a lot of the times, yes. Like, there's not a whole lot of scientific data backing up why ingredient X is on their no list and another ingredient is apparently fine. So I think it's a lot more nuanced than that, but people are trying to simplify things that aren't really that simple in reality. I think that's why this happens. Same kind of thing.
Basically, they're not all that bad, yeah? Just, I did hear that alcohol is not all bad to be in skincare.
Yeah, alcohol definitely, I don't think you can make claims like that. Silicone, again, like a lot of primers contain silicones because they're really good for smoothing out the skin. So I think people just kind of cherry pick things that are you know, and a lot of the free from claims, it's because of this push for clean and things like that, because consumers find skincare very overwhelming, very confusing. And so they're trying to cherry pick things that people are like, okay, well, if it says natural or it says organic or it says this, then it must be okay for my skin. That's why it happens. The process of rolling it back and trying to sort of unpick a lot of these myths is a lot more complicated, obviously. And it makes it really hard for brands. We have made the call as a brand that we really don't want to lean into any of that kind of marketing for our products. We don't go out and try and claim to be clean, even though we are clean, you know, by a lot of the different, you know, clean at Sephora and clean at this level. We would meet all of those criteria, but I don't think that that kind of marketing of products is helpful in any way. I think it muddies the waters even more, because it kind of suggests that then there's this entire other category of products that is what dirty. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Not too many companies are going out there putting products to market that are, you know, intentionally designed to cause harm to people. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know, from a capitalist perspective, from a business perspective. If you are trying to make money, you're not really going to go and purposely create a product that's going to ruin everyone's skin. I can understand how we have got to this position. I don't know how we come back from it. I think it's a lot harder to unpick all of the myths and the misinformation. But I think individual brands also need to have a stance on where they kind of sit with all of this kind of stuff. You know, the green grade ranking systems and all of that kind of thing. We just sort of said, we don't even want to go there. We don't want to play in that pool. Like, we're not interested in marketing our products like that. I also kind of feel like if that's all you have to say about your product is what's not in it, that's not great, you know?
What can you actually offer? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what are you're selling me a negative here? Like, is there nothing else you have to say about your products? Like, what have you created here? Like a whole bunch of no.
This kind of reminds me, I've heard from one of the skincare expert, like I don't think she's dermatologist, but she said that there are no ingredients that clogs your pores. You know, people try to like people avoid this particular ingredient like clogs up your pores, don't go for it. And apparently there's no such ingredient that will actually deliberately clog your pores. Yeah, the companies wouldn't add any ingredients like that. There are skins that can easily like get clogged, but there are no such thing vice versa.
I think that's why the non-comedogenic ones kind of fall apart a bit. You know, I see people from time to time on social media trying to be like, this, don't use that. That's all comedogenic. I have the kind of skin that anything would clog my pores. You know, it's just that kind of reactive, very, very sensitive skin type that reacts poorly to a lot of different things, very, very prone to inflammation. If it was that simple, I wouldn't have dealt with many of the problems that I have with my skin in my time.
Well, your skin looks fantastic, yeah, right now. So yeah.
Thank you.
Very good care of it. Yeah. Many of my viewers have left some questions for you, and the majority of them are in the over 40s, or we even have younger viewers who ask for skincare advice for their moms. They're so sweet, super sweet daughters. And here are some of the questions they want to ask you. So in your opinion, what's the best eye cream for older women?
Okay, so I have good news and bad news.
Which one first?
Yeah, the good news is that I found a cream that I absolutely love. It is the APLB Propolis Collagen Eye Cream.
Oh, yeah.
Bad news is I think it's being discontinued. Yeah, it is literally like the perfect eye cream for older skin. So now that I have heard that, I'm going to be on the hunt to look out once again. Because of how dry my skin is, especially, I find that a lot of the formulas are just too thin. They're not thick enough, and they don't really give that delicate skin the hydration that it needs. So that is actually one of mine, but I think I will also be on the hunt for a new one. Yeah, so that's not great.
APLB, we can note down the ingredients at least.
Propolis Collagen Eye Cream.
Collagen, okay.
Yeah.
And maybe we can search for if I do find anything with these ingredients, I'll pop the image there, yeah, so for all of us to share, yeah. How can women address bags, like in over 40s, like address bags under their eyes, and what's the best way to conceal them? I've got it as well, yeah, these eye bags.
Look, it really depends on the cause of the eye bags. Now, if you are the kind of person that is not getting enough sleep,
Mm,
then sleep is obviously going to be the number one. That's me as well, right? I think the other thing is, if it's genetic, that can be really, really hard to fix, short
yeah.
of like
Mm,
surgery or something like that. Some people just have those genetic, really, really big eye bags. That can be
mm,
very hard.
mm,
Things that can help are using products in the right order and making sure that the products that you are applying around the eye area are actually sinking in. So that can actually help.
okay.
Using sunscreen, again, that's another thing that can really help as well.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think picking a product that obviously works well for you because of how delicate the skin under the eye is. Some products on the market contain things like retinoids and whatnot, and that can just be too much for some people and actually cause the skin to dry out and become sensitized and irritated. It is a little bit trial and error. But yeah, I mean, obviously a good concealer. That's what I'm wearing. That's the only reason my eye bags are a bit less visible today. A good concealer can go a long way as well. Eye bags are a very, very tricky one, but a lot of the time, good sleep, good skincare, a healthy routine, and of course, things like massage, facial massage can also help as well.
yeah, definitely. Some eye cream products come with metal ball tips and some even vibrate. Do you think that I find those quite helpful?
So do I.
Mm,
I actually really enjoy them. I've tried quite a few of those kind of products. I do. I think that kind of application technique is really, really helpful. The other thing that I was doing, but I have fallen out of the habit now just because I've been really, really busy with my baby, is I was using the facial ice massage balls. I don't know if you've seen them. It's basically like a ball on a stick, and you pop them in the freezer, and they, get really, really cold, and you can just roll them under your eyes. Honestly, they were making such a huge difference when I was using them regularly. I used to do it like on a Saturday and Sunday. That can really help. Ice, for a lot of people find is really helpful. One thing that some people swear by is tea bags. The tea bags under the eyes, because caffeine and the tannins and things like that can be really good for your eyes as well. Just a couple of little at-home hacks.
you soak it up and just apply on? Is that what it is? The tea bag hack?
That's the tea bag hack. Yeah, I remember my makeup artist recommending that to me for my wedding when I got married. She was like, "Oh my god, don't get the tea bags out." Okay. Yeah.
Any tea bag, yeah?
Well, yeah, I think like green tea often works really well because green tea has a lot of components that are obviously really good for the skin. Green tea would probably be my pick. As an eye cream ingredient, caffeine is a really, really good one.
And some younger audiences have asked questions like, can I use ingredients like ginseng, snail mucin, or retinol? Well, I usually say don't even think about retinol, if you're in your teens or early 20s. But what's your advice for younger skin, and which ingredients and routines should they focus on?
I think snail mucin is fine for pretty much all age groups. It's really good for hydration. Again, ginseng in Korean beauty tends to be more for managing anti-aging concerns, historically better for older skin types. Retinol, the only reason I would say it might be a good thing for younger skin is if they are very acne prone. So retinol can be a good ingredient for acne prone skin. It will be the key ingredient in a retinoid or a vitamin A will be the key ingredient in a lot of anti-acne medication. So something like Accutane, if that's been prescribed to you by a dermatologist, that's actually the key ingredient. And a lot of the products as well for the face, like tretinoin and things like that. Vitamin A is the key ingredient in those. So retinol in younger skin types probably makes a bit more sense if you do have an issue like that. And then for other people, I guess textural issues, if you've got anything like that, uneven skin tone, pigmentation, post-acne marks, fine lines, any of those kind of things, then obviously retinol is definitely a good one to add into your routine.
Right. Okay. So I should stop saying that then, because I've been telling all of them, don't even think about it.
I think it's probably a case by case. Again, it really depends. But like as someone that suffered from really awful cystic acne when I was a teenager, I was using some form of vitamin A pretty much the entire time I was a teenager. I was prescribed Accutane for my acne twice actually when I was a teenager, and I was using tretinoin as well as prescribed by my doctor pretty much from the time I was maybe 14. So it's definitely not a completely no, but if they don't have any issues like that, then probably you can start somewhere else.
Okay, very interesting. And one subscriber mentioned her makeup peels off all the time. This is me as well. What what could I be doing wrong? I mean, how can she fix this?
This is a really, really common problem.
Yeah.
Problem is usually the skincare, not the makeup. One of the reasons that the makeup won't quite sit right on the skin is because, maybe it's dry, flaking, or something like that. So focusing on your exfoliation, getting a good routine in place is really, really important. And then before your makeup actually goes on, prepping it properly as well. So, layering maybe like a hydrating essence style toner, nourishing cream underneath, getting the right kind of cream. Your SPF should be underneath your makeup as well, your sunscreen. Those kind of things will just make sure that it sits more nicely on the skin. So that can all really help. Obviously, if you've chosen a makeup product that is like a mattifying thing and you have dry skin, that's only going to accentuate any flakes you have. Similar thing with your primers. I know particularly a lot of Western priming products are really designed to mattify everything. So whereas a lot of the Korean ones are more about creating that glowy base and tend to be a lot more hydrating. So if you do have dry skin, I would look more for something like that. One product that I know a lot of people absolutely love is the HEIMISH Artless Glow Perfecting Base. Yeah, that one works well for a lot of people. There are lots of products like that on the Korean market. VDL is one that I personally really like. But that sort of pearlescent shimmery base that a lot of the products have, that's really, really popular in K-beauty. And that tends to work really well to get your makeup sitting nicely and just staying in place as well. Obviously, if your lips and your lip makeup is peeling or flaking, a lip care routine, an exfoliating lip scrub, a lip mask. I put on actually our Jellicoe lip mask every single time before I do my makeup. I will always do that first and then pop this is the one I'm using at the moment, this Amuse lip tint over the top of that. And it just means that it sits there really nicely. It won't accentuate any of the lines in my lips. So stuff like that can help as well.
Okay. And your lip mask has won an award as well.
Our sleeping mask has won an award. Our lip mask, funny you should say that. We actually have just been notified that it has won an award, but I don't think I'm allowed to say. I think it's supposed to be not known to the public for another month or something. So I won't say anything about it.
Coming, guys, another award-winning product from Jellicoe. Yeah. Cool. So basically, to wrap it up, you need to go back to the basics once again and exfoliate.
Yeah, skincare first, makeup second is what I would say. So make sure that there are no underlying issues with your skin before you even put your makeup on. And then obviously just choosing makeup products that are right for your skin type as well. If you do have dry skin, you're going to want to be sticking to something that is more hydrating rather than something that is mattifying. A lot of Western foundations and things like that, I find, if I try something on in like a Sephora or whatnot, I just can't use any of them. They just accentuate all of my dry patches. Because of how dry I am, I just find that Korean BB cushion foundations and things like that tend to work a lot better for my skin.
So you live in South Korea. I guess half of the time South Korea and half of the time Australia?
No, so I actually haven't lived in Australia for nearly 10 years now. Yeah, it's been a while. So I go back as often as I can, but no, I have lived in Korea for quite a while.
Okay. Yes. This is the question for you then. So you live in South Korea and running a K-beauty business in there. So apart from ILLIYOON, are there any places in Korea to shop for beauty products? Like, is ILLIYOON really the only go-to store, or is there any like hidden gems elsewhere?
It's definitely a lot of foreigners' go-to store, particularly when they're visiting Korea, just because it's everywhere and it's accessible. The price point is really, really good. I would say that even among Koreans, it's not like everyone in the country shops at ILLIYOON. Unfortunately, a lot of the competitor offline stores have exited the market, which means we have a lot less choice than we used to, which is really, really unfortunate. I think ILLIYOON, if I can summarize, it's cheap, cheerful, readily available. That's why people tend to recommend it. A lot of influencers and whatnot do haul videos and things like that, which is why you see it a lot. There are other offline beauty stores. Obviously, all the road shop brands that I mentioned, like the brands will have have their own stores.
Mm.
Department stores have big beauty sections, which tend to be none of the crossover things that Olive Young would sell. Shakur is another one that is quite good. Shakur is one of my personal favorites, a little bit more upmarket than Olive Young, I would say, but they stock a really good range of Korean beauty products and overseas beauty products. A lot of people these days, post-pandemic, actually do their beauty shopping online, and I definitely fall into that category. I'll often go into Olive Young just out of, not boredom, but just to have a sticky beak and see what's there. But when it comes to actually purchasing, I rarely actually purchase things from Olive Young. I think I like lip tints and stuff like that I would definitely get from there. I do most of my beauty shopping in Korea online, either at the brand's online store. Coupang, platforms like Coupang are really good because they have same day delivery. So if you've run out of something and just need it, I think that's, you won't see that as much on social media and things like that, but that's where a lot of people would actually do their shopping, is actually online as well.
Koreans actually shop beauty products online.
And home shopping is huge among the older generation. They love some home shopping. There are so many home shopping channels.
The foreigners unfortunately won't really do that, so we're like, what are they doing?
That's why what tends to trend in different age groups is often really, really different, because everyone's shopping in really different places. So if you ask the older generation the products that they're loving, and you're like, I've never even heard of that, they'll be like, it's on home shopping. Like, okay, cool.
So Olive Young is primarily for the younger market, I believe.
Definitely, I would say so. That's not to say that you don't see people my age and a lot older in there, but like that's not really who they're targeting. It does tend to be a lot younger and that cheaper sort of price point as well.
And are there any hidden beauty or skincare products or beauty tools in Korea that you'd like to recommend, perhaps from pharmacies, Olive Young once again, or even like Daiso, cheap and cheerful?
So I guess my hidden hack for where I like to get a lot of my products is at dermatologists' offices and esthetician clinics, just because I really enjoy the brands that they stock. They tend to use those products in clinic, and then they all have like take-home ones that you can buy. So that is where I pick up a lot of my stuff, just because tends to work really well with sensitive skin and people that have skin issues. I do know that a lot of people at the moment in Korea are obsessed with the Daiso makeup spatulas. They've got like a spatula that is supposed to be a cheapie or a dupe of the Picasso makeup spatula that was trending last year. So a lot of people are going a little bit nuts for that. So maybe check that one out if you're in Daiso in Korea.
I bet it's super cheap as well. Love that. Because you just briefly mentioned about the estheticians. I do get every now and again people, my subscribers visiting Korea, asking me for my recommendations on esthetician clinics in Seoul. Because I don't live there, I have no idea. Would you have any clinics you could recommend?
There is a difference between like a dermatologist clinic or a skin clinic and an esthetician. Some have an esthetician that works within the clinic that will do like a treatment for you post like laser or whatever you've just got done. And then there are actually estheticians as well. I do have one that I used to go to that I absolutely love. The only problem is I don't think anyone there speaks English. So I don't really want to recommend that one, just in case, any viewers go expecting there to be some sort of, assistance for foreigners or something like that. But there are dermatologist clinics and skin clinics that, that cater well for foreigners. One that I can recommend is Oracle, that I know that they do actually have sort of an English service, and I've actually been to that one. A lot of the ones that are like more popular with foreigners are popular because they speak English, and I don't need to do my consultations in English, so I don't tend to go to those ones. So I'm always a little bit hesitant to recommend them just because I've never been. That's the only problem. But I can definitely give you the names of some of them. I just can't vouch for them myself. One that is very popular is Muse Clinic, MUSE. I know a lot of people seem to really like that one. That's the main one that I think that I see mentioned among like foreigners living in Korea on the Facebook groups and things like that. So that might be one to check out if you're wanting to do a consultation in English. English.
Oracle and Muse. Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, valuable information there. Now, moving on to K-beauty trends. This year in K-beauty terms like glass skin, minimalism, clean beauty, and products such as milk toners, micro needles in skincare, and peel-off masks have been massive trends. What skin out K-beauty trends do you think will continue into Q4 and even 2025?
I did a little bit of a walk around at a K-beauty expo a couple of months ago, and I'm like, I can already see what's going to be like the thing that will be on everyone's shelves next year. The devices, that's obviously going to be huge. So a lot of the at-home skincare devices that you're seeing, there is going to be a lot of dupes and different versions of that for sure next year. Microbiome, I think we're going to be hearing more and more about ingredients and skincare products that are good for the skin's microbiome, your pre, pro, and postbiotic ingredients. I think they're going to continue to be really big. The other thing that I think is honestly going to continue is jelly. Jelly is a big trend at the moment. Jelly textured products, jelly skin, all of that sort of thing. Obviously, that was one of the reasons that we started our brand all the way back in 2020. But I'm seeing more and more jelly everywhere. From
glass to jelly now.
I think so. I think jelly is where it's at. Jelly is going to be big next year, particularly even in makeup. I'm seeing a lot of that come through as well. Korean and Western brands, jelly textured products, things in the shape of a jelly. I saw one Korean makeup brand just did a really, really cute little jelly key ring. I was like, I want that. So I think jelly is definitely going to be a trend as well going into 2025.
Like a squishy jelly-like skin.
Exactly. All of that kind of thing, as well as jelly textured products as well. But yeah, the at-home devices, definitely we're going to be seeing more of that. And I think, cosmetics that are bringing the skincare clinic at home. You've probably seen like the micro needling products that claim to work similarly to micro needling. I think we're going to be seeing more of that next year as well.
Wow. Where is Jellicoe currently available, and are there plans to expand? I received so many questions around this because my subscribers based in Canada, like India, and in the UK. I'm eagerly waiting for Jellicoe to land so we can reach out to it. Like, what's the plans? And yeah, where can we reach out?
This is where we're currently stocked. We are currently available in the US. We have a warehouse there that we fulfill orders from our own website. We are also on Amazon US, and we are stocked at CO Bigelow, which is actually America's oldest apothecary, which is in New York. So if you're in New York in the West Village, definitely go and check that out. It's an incredible store, but you'll also find our products and testers and things like that in the store. In Australia, we are available online at Woolworths, which is Australia's biggest supermarket. We are available at Style Story and jellicoe.com, our website. We are also available at Jardin Pharmacy, which is like an offline store as well in Australia. Our next port of call will actually be the UAE. We will be launching in the UAE in the Middle East is the next place. And then we are always looking for new opportunities, I guess. The UK, Canada are definitely on our list. Probably for our subscribers in India, the UAE will be the closest to them for the time being, I think.
Oh, it's very lucky. I'm so jealous. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lauren. That is the end of the interview. We have gained so much valuable information. For those who are interested in learning more about Lauren, I'll leave all the links to her skincare brand Jellicoe, her podcast and Instagram in the description below. Anything you would like to share with us before we let you go? I want to hold on to you.
No, I think obviously, thank you so much for this opportunity. This is my favorite thing to talk about, as you can probably tell. I could stay here all day. So thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be connected to your audience as well. And I guess if anyone has any questions or whatnot that they'd like answered outside of this, please feel free to come and find me. But yeah, thank you very much. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Laura. And if you've got any questions you want to ask, leave it down in the comments below. And I'll be back with another K-Beauty video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.